Welcome back, chord enthusiasts. Today I wanted to do part 2 of the series I'm doing on diminished chords and dominant chords and how they relate to each other. I wanted to bring up the song Corcovado by Antonio Carlos Jobim as a really good example of what I was talking about in the last video as far as how a diminished chord can function as other dominant chords. So just to briefly review, last episode I was using A flat diminished as my example, and how if we lower any of these tones, any one of these tones, we get to another dominant chord. So for example, if I lower A flat diminished, if I lower the A flat, I get to G7. If I lower the F down to an E, I get to E7. If I lower the B, I get to B flat 7 over A flat here. And then if I lower the D, I get to D flat 7. And what's interesting is that in the context of corcovado, which the first chord progression goes, according to the real book, it goes dee da dee da dee da dee, dee da dee da dee da dee, dee da dee da dee da dee da da. Which is great. It does this beautiful, if you take out the middle voices, it just goes. Which is super smooth. But if we look at those, at that diminished chord, the A flat, the one that happens right after this first chord, what we'll find is that there are other chords that are being used in this song. If you listen to the original recording, there's lots of variations on this A flat. They don't just play, right? As a matter of fact, they mostly never use this G minor that's written in the real book. It goes straight to a C sus, and then, a C7 sound, and then to that F diminished to F major 7. So as a point of order, let's first start by saying that it goes da 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 da. They really, I couldn't find a time where the bass played a G minor. Also, with the bass, if you go to listen to this song, or what I consider to be the classic version of this song, which is the João Gilberto Stan Getz album with Astrid Gilberto, which is the version that kind of everybody that I know started listening to. It's sort of the seminal version. What is actually happening a lot of the time is actually this sound. It goes dee da dee da dee da da, dee da dee da dee da da. There's a few instances where the bass is playing a G in the bass instead of an A flat, which goes to reinforce the point that if we take this A flat and lower this note, we have G. So G7 is an available option when you see A flat diminished. Now, obviously, that depends on the melody and what's going on contextually, but dee da dee da dee da da, dee da dee da dee da da, it totally works. So another place they do a substitution is later in the song, dee da dee da dee da da, dee da dee da dee da da, D flat 7 with a sharp 9. But again, if we take this chord, lower the top note, that's D flat 7, and that's available to us. Now, I just think that's super fascinating because when you're comping on this song, it can get really tiresome to go right? You want some options. So if you can do now, I should have played the sharp 9 there from the get-go. And if you do this chord and do that bossa nova 1 to 5, you'll get to an A flat diminished chord. So they're pretty obviously related. Now later we get this da 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 da, F diminished to F major 7. So F diminished, we can also think of that as E7. So I love simplifying these diminished chords to more of a dominant sound because it helps us navigate a lot of the sophistication and like over complexity, I would say, of diminished sounds. It helps us improvise in a way that I think is a little bit more organic when we're not like immediately pivoting to the diminished sound with all of its like ba-do-dee-doo-dee-doo-dee-doo, like, you know, all those kinds of shapes that you learn to play over diminished chords that aren't very melodic. So if we think of this chord progression as dee-doo-dee-doo-dee-doo-dee-da-da-da. So I'm thinking E7 there. When I see F diminished, I'm really thinking E7 to F major 7. So I hope that helps. Maybe someday I'll look at the entire song because there's a lot of other things to talk about with it. But just for starters, this idea of translating a diminished chord that you see, being able to see what other dominant chords it could be standing in for, or that you could substitute that diminished chord for. So to summarize, like, I think a lot of people like to see a dominant chord and then substitute a diminished chord, which is also totally cool. But the inverse is not as often talked about. So how to get out of the diminished sort of, I think it's kind of a trap sometimes because we see this diminished chord and we don't know where it's coming from, so we always kind of have to play it when it comes up, when really there's a lot under the hood. So thank you so much for being with me. I love talking about this stuff. Hopefully it's exciting to you too. Leave a comment, subscribe, and help me get this channel off the ground. And I'll see you for part 3, where I'm going to talk a little bit more about what you can do with these diminished chords. Thanks. See you next time.